So, what did you think I was doing the other night when you heard like grunting and banging into the walls? And
I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know if you were wrestling a dog. I couldn't figure out what was going on.
I finally made it into the bedroom doorway when you said, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
And then as I shuffled a little farther along, you started laughing, and then you shifted to, maybe that is a good
I
idea."
think what I said is this is either the most ridiculous idea you've ever had or the most genius.
Mm-hmm. I think we're leaning to
I
genius now,
think we
right?
are leaning, I mean, completely over the top, but genius.
Well, I mean, part of it is this is really going back to our previous episode about sports
Yeah.
and kind of ruling the calendar sometimes.
Yeah.
And we are in the thick of tournament time now.
For sure.
So last week we had Big Ten tournament, and now we're into the NCAA
Yep.
tournament. And we got just the worst time
Yeah.
last night. Started playing at 10 o'clock.
It was after 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means we're not done till 1 o'clock. And
Yeah. By the time you watch the post game and everything, it was 1 o'clock.
oh, I was well beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd gone to bed, but kind of before that, like Tucker's just been annoying us, right? And he sleeps in our bed.
Yeah. For like the last month or so.
Yeah, and there's been a while where he kind of figured out his spot right in between our legs where he
Yes.
didn't really bother
Down
us.
at the end of the
So we're like,
bed.
all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
He can sleep there.
Yeah.
But he's just been getting a little
Creeping up
obnoxious.
and creeping up and creeping up. And
Yeah, starts laying sideways right in the middle of
Yeah.
the bed.
And he's a
And
big dog for context. He's 100 pounds.
yeah, but he's just been waking us up a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been in the back of our head that we need to
We need
make
to
some
get him
kind
out of
a
our bed.
switch. Now combine late nights with basketball, and Gussie is here for a week.
Yes.
Zach and Shelby's dog while they're in Florida. Gussie's very good by himself.
Mm-hmm.
He would just curl up in a little corner.
Yep.
But Tucker just goes nuts and starts being protective. And
These are my parents.
yeah, like this is my bed.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we had one rough night.
Wednesday night was the first night we had Gus. And I woke up at 3 a.m. and both dogs were on my side of the bed. And Tucker was kind of stretched out along my back, and Gus was up under my butt and my knees. I was curled up into a tiny ball. And to even try to move, I had to get out of bed because there was so little room. I couldn't figure out a way to lay where my feet and at least one leg wasn't hanging off the bed. I mean, I wrestled for like an hour and a half, and I finally grabbed my pillow and I went into the guest room because I'm like, I need to get a couple hours of sleep here.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. I pushed and pushed and pushed these dogs. I could not get them to move.
So in comes the flaw bed.
Yeah.
As it's affectionately called in this family.
Yeah.
Well, Tobes and M, we've finally imitated your genius plan of an extra bed on the floor, but this one's just for the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But it works out great
It's
for us.
so over the top ridiculous. So the big wrestling Thursday night was you dragging the mattress from the guest bedroom, putting it on the floor at the end of our bed, and that's where both dogs slept.
Mm-hmm.
We had to kick Tucker off 3 or 4 times, and then he stayed there the whole night, and it was amazing how much room we both had in our bed.
Now that they figured it out, they love it. We've slept pretty well the last couple nights.
Yeah.
So now Tucker's getting a bed when Gussie leaves.
We are not going to leave a full-size mattress on the floor for the dogs to sleep on because that is ridiculous. But we are going to buy a dog bed for Tucker, and that's where Tucker will be sleeping forevermore.
So the bottom line to all this is you thought I was
Genius.
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 Let's leave it at that.
Yep, absolutely.
Welcome to Becoming Chick and Pop, a podcast about our family, past and present, for our family in the future.
We discuss family, marriage, faith, and all the things that made us Chick and Pop. So before we get into our kind of content theme of the week, I want to do a quick listener shout out to Gloria Gonzalez. Gloria, thanks for listening. Gloria, so just to give everyone some context, we talk a lot about friends that are like family. And Gloria and her husband, Miguel, are really, really close family friends of my brother Rob and his wife Amber. So Miguel is one of Rob's oldest friends. In fact, I think I've known Miguel his entire life. He's the cousin of my childhood best friend. I remember watching him run around as a toddler, all the things. And anyway, we were together. We were at Rob and Amber's last weekend, and I got to spend some time talking with Gloria, and she mentioned that she listens to the podcast, and I just thought it was so sweet. So thank you, Gloria. And also, just a shout out to you and Miguel. You are those friends like family. Um, Gloria is the person that if you wind up in jail, she's going to lead the jailbreak 100%. Um, and um, and also, you guys are doing a fantastic job with your three boys. You're great parents, and I love to see it. I love to hear about it. So keep doing all the good things you're doing.
All right, cool. And our other fives of listeners, we love you too. But that was Jody's little special shout out.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell us the background to this whole sandwich thing that we kind of fell on this week. How did that? You started telling me about it, and I was like, well, we should just try that.
Yeah. So I was thinking in my mind. I've been thinking a lot about being part of the sandwich generation because we've had tons of experience with that, and I was kind of thinking through the way you can kind of describe life as a sandwich sometimes, right? There's so many different kinds of sandwiches and variations, and every day or week or circumstance looks like a different sandwich. And I was like, help me think this through a lot. We were in the car driving, and we started to think about that.
Life is like a box of sandwiches. That's not what it is. But future fam, if you haven't watched Forrest Gump, go back and watch it.
For
It's
sure.
got to be a 100-year timeless classic, I would think.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, we were kind of talking about it in the car, and so we thought, what if we try this as kind of one of our podcast prompts? How we talk about our week.
I thought you had a very specific example of. Did you do that in a call or something?
No,
No,
no.
just kind of
I
rolled
just
together.
gave you an example of what it might be like. Yeah.
Okay.
To help you understand the concept.
Well, to continue describing, why don't you go ahead with yours?
So I went a little in depth as I was thinking about my week, but I decided my sandwich is going to be like a toasted sharp cheddar and turkey. A little over toasted because I've been in PT and I'm feeling a little crunchy. You know, I got some things. So that over toasted bread is kind of the way that my neck and shoulder feel right now. A little crunchy, and then condiment on my sandwich is like your third favorite mayonnaise, right? It's like this thick spread of spreadsheets and data and dense information that's been part
Hold
of my
on.
week.
Third favorite
Yeah.
mayonnaise? You have a list of favorite mayonnaises?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not exactly the flavor that you dream of, but it'll get the job done. Then I've got some sharp cheddar and turkey that represents spending some time with Miles in the middle of the week, something warm and satisfying. And then finally, I'm going to throw in a handful of chips inside the sandwich. It's a little salty, little chaotic, little touch of fun that represents the NCAA tournament kicking off this week.
Hmm.
That's my sandwich. That's my week as a sandwich.
That is a fancy sando.
I'm a fancy girl.
Hopefully mine will be better in coming weeks. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been a little grumpy this week.
I, I might have noticed a little bit,
You do? You pick up on that?
just
I
a little bit.
feel like I hide it so well. It's just been really busy at work, and I've been mildly annoyed at some certain things. So it just kind of puts me in a little bit of a funk, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is the real life of our podcast, so it's going to happen.
Yep.
But as we thought about sandwiches, I had this flashback to, I'm sure, like it was middle school, and my dad was still working, and it must have been a a big fad or something at the time. However, people got their information before the internet. Um, make all your sandwiches the week ahead and throw them in the freezer.
Yep.
And so what we got was turkey, no flavor turkey, and Kraft singles
Mm-hmm.
slapped on bread in a bag thrown in the freezer. And then you'd get one of those tossed in a bag to take with lunch,
Uh-huh.
to take with you for
Yeah.
lunch. And I just remember those being so nondescript and so eh, and being, middle school, which was just awful
Yeah.
most of the time anyway. So I thought my whole week just kind of felt like the frozen turkey and cheese sandwich that you have and you have to eat at lunch, and
You just got to get through it.
you get through it and move on.
Yeah. That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, pretty inspiring, I know, but hey, that was my week.
All right, I'm going to see if I can help you make a better sandwich for next week.
Okay, sounds good. I did have moving into other thing, smile, cry, laugh things. I think this goes back
I think it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
We went to church with Zach and Shelb and Miles, and then Shelb was taken off to do a girls' day thing, and there was a basketball game. Was it the Michigan game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the last game of the regular season against Michigan at Breslin.
So Zach said it was going to be a boys' day, and he and I and Miles were going to watch the game. But then, like, oh, well, we should add on Chick to that also. So Miles was cool with that.
Well, first Miles said, Chick's a girl. Yeah.
But then he
But
rolled with
Zach
it.
told him, but Chick has all boys. And Miles was like, okay, Chick can come.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's partially background. I mean, it makes me smile thinking about it, of course.
Yeah.
But the main one is kind of a recurring thing with Miles. After church, the four of us went and got some breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
which we usually do. And this is the recurring part with Miles. He generally has to go to the bathroom at least once, maybe twice.
Mm-hmm.
So as he's sliding out of the booth or the chair, he looks over at me. It's always at
It's
me.
always at you.
And he says, "Don't eat that. I'm going to eat that." It's usually like his fries
Pop,
or his pancakes or
don't eat
something.
that.
Yeah. And then there's like this sideways look
Yeah.
directed right at me, which there's no words to it, but it clearly says, "If you touch these, I'm going to come at you. Don't touch my fries."
Yeah.
So it's just such a subtle thing packed with so many words without any words
From a 3-year-old.
from a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So I just love it.
Yeah. It's great.
You get a smile or a laugh or a cry.
You know what? I think if I'm going to pick one thing, and this is literally just off the top of my head, it is I had so much fun watching that basketball game last night. I was so invested. And I think I told you, like in the second half, I don't want to take my blood pressure right now because it is crazy. And I've done a pretty good job about I don't get that stressed out about games anymore. But man, I was so invested in that game last night. Whew, had my blood pumping.
Hmm. You just gave me a flashback to my grandpa Bepler, where he's like, "I can't watch football anymore," because it was just like,
Really?
oh, he would get just so intense. And
Yeah, I don't think I ever watched a football game with him. That's interesting.
well, congrats to you for being excited about the game, because you were also sitting in like homemade traction with ice on your
On my neck, and
neck
yeah, I was a
because you're getting
mess last night.
everything's getting cranked out of shape.
Yeah,
I mean, fixed, but cranked out of shape short term and
yeah.
physical therapy with what you have going. To counteract all that, I just had a naproxen to help with the aches I have left over from playing tennis last night,
Mm-hmm.
and I downed it with one of our Thrive Energy shots.
Oh.
So hopefully, I'm ramping up here and getting rid of the aches and pains.
I mean, you are bubblier now than you've been all week, so maybe this is a good combination for you.
I guess that worked. You're gonna start throwing those energy shots at me,
That's
aren't you?
right. That's right.
Well, that was a lot of intro, but that's all good because we're headed into episode 5 of our second season right now.
We are. And, I think this is going to kind of kick off some special character episodes. I'm going to call them character episodes where we do deeper dives on some people in our family tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not we won't necessarily always have them on, but we're going to do a little like our own little reflection on them.
Exactly. And so today we're going to spend some time talking about Zach and what it was like to be his parents, to watch him grow up, kind of talk about those years of his early life, I think.
Yeah. Can I hit a couple podcast things
Sure.
first? Kind of production side
Yep.
things. Uh, First of all, the talent asked production to go back to our old music. So if you notice that it switched and then you notice that it switched back, you're good. Congratulations. But
You get bonus points with Tim if you picked up on that.
but Jody wanted the old stuff back, so we're going back to it.
Thank you for taking that note so graciously.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then I don't know if I mentioned to you, I had trouble describing it. I should have looked it up, but I got this ad
A social
in
ed.
Instagram,
Yeah.
and it was selling these journals for your grandpa
Mm.
to like fill in what he did
Mm-hmm.
for the day and fill out a memory
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, oh man, that's kind of a good idea. Now I feel guilty that I'm not doing something like that. And then
Ta-da!
we're doing it.
We're doing it in the form of a podcast.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier for me to just yap back and forth with you on stuff like this than write stuff in a paper journal. You know that's not going
Absolutely.
to happen.
And it's a great medium, I think, for whoever the listener, the consumer of information is.
You definitely get the tone and the way they react and communicate much better from this than
Yeah.
written in paper.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that,
Yeah.
but I will choose this every time.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and dig into our family spotlight.
All right. So today we decided we're gonna focus on Zach. Next week we're gonna do an episode on Toby, leading into interviews with each married couple. So going to give you some background and kind of our perspective as parents on each of these wonderful boys that we've raised. And then we're going to hear from them and from their wives. So I think it's going to be fun. We've shared pieces about us and our marriage. But our story is part of something much bigger in our, family unit. And we want to bring their voices in. I think you're going to enjoy those as listeners.
Starting with Zach.
Mm,
Don't worry, Toby. It's just because he was born first.
that's right.
And you already snuck your way onto a previous episode.
Yep.
So, starting with the first boy and just all the great things and the love and how grateful we are for him
Mm-hmm.
and for the person that he is. So,
How would you describe Zach as a child?
but for the most part, Zach was pretty calm and laid back and
Mm-hmm.
kind of always wanted to hang out with the adults from a young age. And
Yeah.
I think that's another thing from you and just something that we wanted him to get used to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a very sweet boy.
Mm-hmm.
We loved hanging out with him.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, he was he was my buddy right away.
Yeah.
He wanted to play all the games and hang out and do all the things, watch the games, and um, just basically had me to himself, which I was glad to oblige to, which we touched on
Yeah.
in a previous episode also. But what's your what sticks out to you?
Mm. Um, he was such an easy baby. I mean, I think the only thing that wasn't easy was he didn't really sleep through the night until he was about 4 months old. But other than that, like he was just a very relaxed, easygoing baby. I think we had like a week or two when he was about 6 weeks old, where it was a little rough, but that was because he needed hernia surgery. So he was pretty uncomfortable. So there was a week or so leading up to that surgery where he was pretty uncomfortable. So he was a little fussier than normal, but he was just such an easygoing baby and just always happy. And he loved being around people. And we took him everywhere with us. Like he
Mhm.
wasn't, you know, he loved people. He loved being in different situations. He adapted really well. And yeah, he was just a really easygoing kid. He was a little lazy as a baby. He didn't crawl till he was like almost 10 months old. And I think to get him to crawl, we had to like leave a trail of Cheerios on the floor to like encourage him to crawl. Sarah probably remembers that. She was
See,
definitely there for that.
I thought you had just jumped ahead to middle school, high school.
No, it's a trend that carried him through from, you know, his first year of life for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, and he was like the most fun toddler and little boy. Like he was just up for anything. Literally up for anything.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, the other thing from a very early age, he had a very strong aptitude for language. And I think that's something that both of our boys have, right? Their vocabularies were always well advanced of their age. They were really good communicators. You know, Zach in particular could just sit down and talk to anybody about anything, and that still holds true. Um, yeah, and he was just, I think, always curious too, which is something that I really appreciated about him as a kid. I think we both did and tried to foster that, like, ask the questions. And if it was a math question, you got to answer it. But
But I think he, like, very early, a lot like Miles,
hmm
just picked up on sarcasm and humor,
yeah,
which endeared him even more to the adults.
yeah,
So, at when like early on, I can't remember when they moved away, but my sister Kath and her husband Dave
hmm
lived across the street from us when he was a baby
hmm
toddler.
hmm
So they were over a lot
yeah,
and got to hang out with him a ton.
yeah.
Let's be honest, they're pretty easy to make laugh,
Yes,
which
yes, they're a
I
great
enjoy.
audience.
They're
Dave
a
and
great
Kath are some of the
audience.
best audience you could ever have.
Zach could get them
Oh,
laughing
Zach had him wrapped
too.
around his
So
finger for sure. You know, that's another thing too about Zach. From a very young age, he's always had a great sense of humor. And it is that dry, sarcastic. I mean, definitely gets, you know, that from you. Not that I don't have it because I definitely do, but he's always had a sense of humor and he learned to use that in the best way possible. In fact, I was thinking this morning about when he was, and this was like he was 2, and he learned about knock knock jokes. And do you remember his favorite knock knock joke? Dave and
I
Kath
think
will
everybody
remember
does.
this because we still talk about it. Um, knock knock,
Who's there?
Kangi,
Kangi who?
Kangi Fitchy.
Bah! And then everybody would start laughing and he'd start laughing. That's
Complete nonsense.
yeah.
But every time when he wanted to like interject something and be funny, he would tell that knock knock joke, and
And it killed
it did every
every
time.
time.
hmm But anyway, that is humor is definitely something that has served Zach well his whole life. And the other thing that I just want to mention to you, because I think it's important to his character, is from the time he was a toddler, he has been one of the most charming people I've ever met. He just knows when to turn it on and how to use it to make people feel comfortable, to alleviate tension, to win somebody over to his side.
For the pit bull face that I can have,
Mm.
that's actually kind of
Oh, for
been,
sure. It's one of
I
your
think, too,
superpowers.
especially with the old
Yeah.
ladies. Somehow
Yes.
and that's one of those things your kid watches and sees how
Mhm.
you interact. I mean, that's a more important one, but right down to the way you talk at the drive-through
Yeah.
at McDonald's at Taco
Yeah.
Bell. dead on the same way. It's like it could have been me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the bigger story of know that your kids are watching.
Yes.
Everybody knows that, but
Yes. The way that you see traits, your own traits show up in your kids.
it shows up in the tiniest things. You know it's going to be
Yeah,
in the bigger things.
for sure. Let's talk a little bit about Zach as a student. He was one of those kids where uh, learning comes pretty easy to him.
Oh, before we do that, you were talking about him not sleeping early
Oh,
on,
yeah.
but then there came a point where he's like, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed."
Yeah.
Like like 2 years old.
Oh, the kid, no,
As soon as
it
he could
wasn't that
talk.
he didn't love to sleep. It was just he didn't sleep through the night. But once he started sleeping through the night, then he was all about the sleep.
Hmm.
He napped until the day he went to kindergarten. I mean, he slept in on Saturday mornings. Like the kid loved his sleep.
Hmm.
Never an issue. Going to bedtime was never a fight for him at all.
No, like I said, he would ask,
Yeah.
like, "I want to go to bed now,"
Mm-hmm.
which we kind of see in Miles
Yeah.
sometimes now. Also,
Yeah.
I want to go to my nap.
Yeah.
He knows when it's time.
Yep.
But that was one of those, as we're moving into middle school and high school,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
he was always about the sleep.
For sure.
um, but you started talking about where you headed on academics first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The word is annoying that I use all the
Yeah.
time, just because we would ask, "Are you studying?
No, he
Are you
studied
getting ready
very
for
little
this test?" He's like,
even through undergrad. I mean, honestly,
"Mm-hmm,
the most that kid ever studied in his life was in grad school and probably for his PT boards. School was just something that was very easy. He has an amazing memory and he's very logic driven. So, and he's an exceptional reader, which I think lends itself to school being much easier.
well,
Uh,
and that's kudos to you because did you have him reading going in kindergarten?
wasn't
Just about,
almost, yeah.
yeah. Well, smart kid, and that stuff came very easy to him.
Yeah.
I say annoying for us thinking back on it, really annoying for Toby,
Yeah.
who worked very hard,
Yeah.
studied very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So to see Zach just kind of like slough it off and then go in and take tests,
Yeah.
he wouldn't always do his homework, but he could make up for it by just going
Absolutely.
in and killing a test.
Yep.
So,
So he also was the kid that he was up for trying like any sport and I mean, he tried it all, through elementary school. We started with soccer. He did t-ball, baseball, in all the forms of baseball, basketball. He tried football. You know, and until kind of he found his groove, I think with tennis and golf that he still
hmm,
plays today.
yeah. And you would kind of ask me what some of my favorite memories of those
Mm-hmm.
sports things are with
Mm-hmm.
him. It's honestly not any of the things that he did, and some will probably pop to mind after I say that, but the things that actually stick out are when he was older,
Mm-hmm.
like going to um, the Big Ten football championship that
Oh
Michigan State was
yeah.
in. And was it Shelby with him
Yeah.
who panned her phone over as they scored the winning touchdown? And he just had this face of disbelief, and he was just so happy that it just happened.
Yeah.
So that, and then also seeing him having fun in the Izzo and seeing him on TV all the time.
Is a
Izzone. Yeah.
student at MSU. Yep.
Yeah. So it was just getting to see him enjoy those things.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think all of his personal sporting activities just kind of all meld into
Yeah.
one thing that he did growing up.
For sure.
What about you?
Yeah. I think sports for Zach were really like just a big social thing, like his participation in sports, right? Like it was something he had fun and his friends were doing it. And it was just kind of like one of those great outlets, I think, for him in that way. Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think his last year of baseball was completely social because
Yeah.
there was some different teams like the elite super serious about it travel team,
Right.
and then somebody put a team together with a bunch of his
Yeah.
friends where they just like, ah, this is
This
fun.
is fun.
Win or lose,
Yeah.
let's just go out there and play.
Yeah.
So, but I think maybe deeper, he was never super competitive in that way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's probably where he settled in sports, academics.
Yep.
He was kind of a coaster, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So, with him being that laid back, did you see any challenges that presented for him from
Well,
your
obviously. It's interesting. I feel like the challenges didn't really start with his kind of laid back nature and attitude. I'm gonna even call it like a laid back attitude because I think it's a little different than nature.
well, let me interject here.
Yeah.
You're laughing at the challenges that there were.
Yes.
I don't think he had any clue that there were challenges with it.
Oh,
He
he
was
absolutely didn't.
that's how like laid back he was about it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think he was really faced with those challenges until maybe his senior year of high school and college. Like senior year of high school, AP English, and all of a sudden he hadn't done a bunch of stuff that had to be turned in, and like, oh crap, this is actually serious. I have to do this. I thought I could just kind of blow it off,
Because he was in it for the semester and I'll just kill the test when the time comes
which
at
he
the end.
did, but all of a
Hmm.
sudden he realized that wasn't going to be enough in May, of the
Yeah.
school year. Those types of things. Yeah. I think, those challenges. And then I think, I mean, the one thing that stands out to me is making a decision and, the whole application process to grad school.
Hmm.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that's the one that sticks out to me.
Yeah. Where he was just kind of being lazy and not getting his applications in and I don't even remember like the exact circumstance, but there came a point where, and Zach and Shelby were they engaged yet? I don't know if they had just gotten engaged or
It's hard to tell
yeah,
because we knew that they were getting married.
right,
So
right. But like they had a big sit down conversation where Shelby's like, I need you to be serious. This is now our future, and it was like one of those, oh, I really am dropping the ball here. I need to step up my game a little bit. Finally, for maybe one of the first times in his life where he was really confronted with that type of challenge.
well, I hope for him that is one of those stake in the sand God moments for him
Yeah.
because there's no way he probably should have ended up in such a great situation
Yeah.
that he did have.
Yep.
Um, I mean, he had to travel. He had to pay for it a little bit with his time.
Yep.
Is there even a program at Michigan State?
No, there's no
Was
program at Michigan
so he was
State.
going to have to go somewhere.
Yeah,
But
and so he was just late getting his applications in and that type of thing, and he got an interview at Wayne State in their program, and I think he got waitlisted, which I think shocked him that he got waitlisted. He got his application into Oakland when it needed to be there, and he was accepted into Oakland's program, which was probably going to be, honestly, his first choice. But yeah, at the time, it was a serious situation because there's only a handful of PT schools in the state of Michigan. I think there was 4 at the time. So if you didn't get in, you had to wait an entire year
yeah.
to reapply, which was going to be an entire year of his life on hold, basically.
So along with that came just not really thinking or worrying about money either because
Mm-hmm.
he lived at home, drove our cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it feels like we're picking on you, Zach, but it's all part of pointing to the growth that you've made
Yeah.
and that you're an amazing adult.
Yeah.
Um, but just no real concern about where the money was going to come from for
Yeah.
school or for an apartment.
Yeah.
It sticks out very clear to me in my in my head at one point. Is like, well, how are you going to pay for your rent? And he's like, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. And that was literally like his attitude. And on one hand, I was so annoyed. On the other hand, I was like, where do I get some of that
Yeah.
in a bottle of,
Mhm.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. And I mean, to Zach's credit, that is absolutely not his attitude
Mm-mm.
anymore. He is a hard worker. He's very responsible with money. He and Shelby, and Shelby's a huge asset to that. I mean,
I was going to say, let's be honest. A lot of it changed when Shelby came on the scene.
100%.
And yes, we'll give her credit for some of that. Some
Mm-hmm.
of it's just he was at that age where he was growing up at the same time too.
Exactly.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
but I mean, Shelb didn't hurt. That's for
Shelb,
sure.
Shelb helped a lot. We used to joke when they were, dating and before they were married, like, well, Zach, if you screw this up, we're keeping Shelby. Sorry, buddy. We're keeping her. Obviously very much joking, but, I think it just speaks to how much we adore Shelby.
Well, we could only make that joke because we knew she wasn't going
That's right.
anywhere.
It was very clear. Yeah. Let's talk about Shelby a little bit. And, Zach didn't date a ton. He spent a lot of time with his guy friends, with the squad, all through high school and college. And um he and Shelby met at Michigan State. Yeah. And I think, the first time we met Shelby, I mean, number one, she was very different from any girl Zach had ever dated before. But I mean, from like the very moment we met her, we were like, oh, okay. I mean, we loved her, but it was very obvious, like the connection between the two of them. It was just so obvious to anybody that was around them that
Hmm.
like this was going somewhere,
And she passed the Toby test right away.
which is the
That was a hard
ultimate
test.
test, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think there was, I don't know if it was a spoken agreement. I mean, we definitely talked about it afterwards, but um, I think that sibling test is really telling, don't you?
I suppose.
I think it
Yeah.
is. I mean, your sibling knows you in ways no one else in the world does. And, your sibling has to put up with your partner for the rest of your life. And, kind of all the things. And Zach hadn't really liked Toby hadn't really liked some of Zach's girlfriends before and was pretty vocal about that. So, yeah.
This nostalgia moment.
Hmm.
I was trying to remember back to when we met
Hmm.
and the meeting of the
Yeah.
siblings. And one of the first ones I remember is my sister Dave, or
Your sister, Dave. Yeah.
my sister Kath and her husband Dave,
Yeah.
for some reason were coming through Michigan
Yeah.
State
And showed up.
and came in to my dorm room, and you were
I was there.
there and you had your shoes off like you were all
Yep.
comfortable. Like,
It was in the spring.
yeah. It could have been any number of 20 people that were there hanging out,
Could have been.
but Kath's eyebrows raised like, wonder who this is.
Right.
And then when you came and met the family the first time,
Mm-hmm.
you were instantly in.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same kind of natural, oh, she belongs here, just like
Mm.
with Shelby.
Yeah.
I don't remember it as
I
much
don't really
going to your
remember.
family
Yeah.
because we discussed your dad always kind of hid in the bedroom
Yeah.
when we would show up.
Yeah.
And we showed up with a whole group of people, maybe the first
Yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
right.
your brother and sister are a little younger.
Yeah.
And can I say it? Your brother was a pain in the butt at the time,
Yes.
kind of
He was
detached.
that
He'll admit
early
it.
middle school years. He was still kind of in his chump phase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the first to admit
Yeah.
it, so we can say it. But we love you, Rob.
Yes, for sure.
And Carrie was kind of a little sister at
She was in high school, just kind of
yeah,
flighty and doing whatever.
off doing her thing.
Teenage girl
So
things. Yeah.
I think the test I had to pass was with their Aunt Linda. So that
Yeah.
was, I think I got by that one, and then we were good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, let's get this back to Zach.
Yes.
We rabbit trailed like
Yeah.
we are so good at doing. Um,
And I think we touched on this, but I think, one of the things that I appreciate so much about Zach and Shelby's relationships is the way that their personalities completely complement each other, right?
Hmm.
You know, Zach is, you know, we've talked about how he's just very laid back and logical. And so when Shelby gets a little overstimulated or like in go, go, go mode, you know, Zach can be like, okay, let's, you know, take a step back. So he has that kind of like calming, slow down just a little bit effect on Shelby. But then I think Shelby has really encouraged Zach's drive and like motivation and like, nope, let's get this done. And, you know, let's not wait till the last minute.
Hmm.
And yeah.
And I mean, I keep wanting to pull this back to Zach, but really, they are one now. So
Mm-hmm.
it is Zach.
Yeah.
That's who he is. But I was gonna go back to one of his kind of high school
Mm.
things, and it's really about school again,
Yeah.
but sort of a bigger picture. Um, he would be studying, and I remember trying to tell him to put some distractions away and focus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we'd walk out and he'd have his books open. He'd also have a show going on
Yep.
TV. He'd have maybe his
He'd have his phone out.
what's the iPod,
Yeah.
the music.
Yeah.
We didn't have all our music on the phone back
That's
then.
right.
It was on a separate
Yep. Yep.
device. Look it up, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you thought it was the coolest thing. You could have 1,000 songs
Right.
on this little thing that you had to carry separately and listen to it.
For sure.
So he might have that in
Mm-hmm.
his ears. Also have his phone.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure when he got a laptop.
Not till college, I
Not till
think.
college. But anyway, TV, phone, iPad, books.
Right.
And I remember for a while I kept telling him, you got to focus on what you're doing because that's what I had to do. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have any other distractions. And as we went along and the world
Yeah.
progressed, I started thinking, if he can do it, that's probably what his life is going to be.
Yeah.
And now, sure enough, 25 years later, whatever,
Yeah.
you and I are on a laptop,
Yeah.
on our phone,
Yeah.
might have something on the TV or
Music
watching.
playing or
So he started early
yeah.
and it was great for him, even though I thought it was like this terrible distraction.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so that's
I
something
never worried about it. And so I think
I think you did a little bit.
I I didn't the way that you did because I think Zach and I are very similar.
Yeah, you were
So
much more of a
I would always
multitasker.
study with the TV on. Like it helped me, like having two different things going on at the same time. Like it's just the way my brain works. I take input from multiple places and somehow it just all works for me. And so Zach is very much like me in that way. Um, where I think you and Toby are the more focused one thing at a
Yeah,
time.
I was just thinking that
Yeah.
too. All that being taken in on what a awesome experience it was watching Zach grow up and having him as our son in the house and
Yeah.
just loving almost every minute of it. Is there something that he kind of taught you as a
mm,
parent?
I think it's a great question. And I mean, honestly, I think in a way we were kind of growing up with Zach because we were such young parents.
Hmm.
You know, we were learning how to do this. He was our first child. And so I think every parent, you're learning how to parent right alongside your child as you're raising them. You know, there's things you just don't know and you just figure it out on the fly or you make it up as you go kind of thing. And I think Zach made it easy on us in a lot of ways. Not saying that every moment with Zach was easy, but I think if,
But again, those earliest years that you were talking
yeah,
about, very easy kid.
yeah, I think what Zach in that parenting experience in particular with Zach taught me is to trust my instincts, like to trust myself to make the right decisions for him and for us as a family. I think that experience of parenting him instilled a lot of confidence in my ability and my decision making, discernment, those types of things. Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that I would take away from that.
Hmm.
How about you?
I remember that being my first experience with grasping the concept of absolute unconditional love.
Mm,
When that
mm-hmm.
first kid comes along,
Yeah.
that I mean it was like that with you, of course, but I didn't know you your entire life.
It's
But
different with your child.
this one I
Yeah.
knew from the second he was born
Yeah.
and before.
Yeah.
And on a deeper level, I remember having this whole God and Jesus thing
Mm-hmm.
about that, like giving up your son.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that could happen
Like
once
the
you have,
Abraham and Isaac
or
scenario.
that too.
Yeah.
Once you have your own son,
Mm-hmm.
how
Right.
how could you give him up for anything?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, on a personal and spiritual level, there was that
Mm-hmm.
aspect of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then at a more surface level, it's just and I guess this is probably more when Toby came along, of just knowing that your kids are different,
Yeah.
um, which we didn't know at the time with him.
Yeah.
But that's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
Great, but different.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I mean, I just love the kid.
Yeah.
What can I say?
He's pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think one of the, and I think most parents would agree with this, but, I think one of the most rewarding things now being still being his parent, but, he's 30 years old now and he has a family of his own. And it is just so rewarding to see who he's grown into and to see some of the characteristics from you and I, from the way that he was raised and how those are part of who he is today and and his family, right? I think, I was thinking this morning about one of the things that I appreciate so much about you and the way that you parented both of our boys is the way that you instilled how important respect of women. And I think probably the angriest I've ever seen you with either one of my boys was when they were being disrespectful to me.
Hmm.
And I know without a shadow of a doubt, if one of the boys were with me and someone was being mean, disrespectful, to me, they would not tolerate that. Zach would not tolerate anybody treating Shelby disrespectfully in his presence. Um, I appreciate that so much. And they definitely got that from you. That was something that you were very deliberate and intentional about. And the other thing is, I think Zach is also very protective of his people, even beyond respect, right? Like he's very protective of his people. And he's going to go to bat for them. He's going to make sure that they have what they need to be successful. Um, he is generous and yeah. So anyway, I love seeing those characteristics that I can very clearly see in your life and the way they show up in his life is just an amazing thing.
One thing,
Yeah.
and and you flashed me back to like the most cliche scene in any TV show or movie about the Big
It was
Brother
a pivotal point.
of I can pick on him, but you can't pick on him.
Yep.
And thinking back to a couple times where Toby got shoved or picked on
Yeah.
by somebody, and
Yeah.
and Zach stepped in,
Yeah.
and I don't remember all the details, but I know it happened, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember hearing the story. So
Yeah.
he actually loved to see that.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited to do more of these character studies. And, now that we've got to tell you a little bit about our parenting experience with Zach, we're excited to hear his side of things and to hear from he and Shelby and let them share their story. You've heard about it from our perspective, but we're excited to bring their story to you from their perspective.
And I look at this kind of episode, and at first I'm like, oh boy, I don't feel like we covered all the angles of Zach, but we have we touch on him in every episode
Yeah.
essentially. So um,
And there's many
to
more conversations and
To
stories.
Miles and his other kids and grandkids, we hope you listen to all these things in a whole and get a picture of what your dad, grandpa was.
Yeah.
So much more than this one episode. So,
Yeah.
well, how about a weekly thing, Jode? What are you reading or listening to?
Hmm.
Are you on other podcasts right now, listening to it,
I
or are you
just
just
finished
reading?
another podcast that was a little bit interesting. Um, yeah, I'm kind of in between right now, I think, I've been watching a lot of basketball this week. I think that's taken up a lot of my time and attention, honestly.
Hmm. Starting on Wednesday with early games.
Yep,
You like to see the close finishes, and
yep,
that's always the best part about
for
Thursdays.
sure.
Finish, finish,
Yep.
finish. Games all right in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're close, it's exciting.
Yeah,
And every time we talk about you listening to podcasts,
yeah.
I always cringe that I'm doing a podcast because I never listen to them.
That's okay.
Well, as far as my listen, um, going back to the whole reality of life thing, I just haven't listened to anything.
No,
It's just been like head down
you have been.
in the work,
Yeah.
and I can't really get it out of my head at night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get by it. We'll get past
You're
it.
just in one of those grind cycles right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um. So not really a ton of listening.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, I am still trudging through. Think I'm in Second Kings now, staying just a little bit ahead of like where Mark is.
In our ETE series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of slow going, especially since I can only do a few page clicks on the Kindle every night before I just bomb out. So
Oh, hey, maybe what we could mention this week is what we've been watching that we really love. So one of the things it just spurred what you were talking about that we've been watching. It's a new series on Amazon Prime called House of David,
oh yeah.
which has been really fun. So House of David follows the life of King David, and we just spent months in First and Second Samuel and learning about King Saul and the transition of the kingship to David and his reign, and we're now like getting into, I think, Solomon's reign. But anyway, it's been really interesting to see that portrayed but it's a really well done series on Amazon Prime. So
Like with most of those shows, they pull from some other historical accounts to sprinkle things in.
right.
So you won't read all of it in the Bible, but I think
But
they
it
do a
is
pretty good job of.
documented by multiple sources
Mhm.
of reliable kind of information. Yeah.
But I was thinking they're kind of moving at the pace Mark would right now.
Yeah.
By the time he gets to be king, I think we're gonna be like 4 years into this TV series at the pace they're going.
Maybe. All right. Well, this has been a fun episode. Talking about our family is one of my favorite subjects, so it's always a good time.
Lots of people to get through.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun. Future fam, in case you listen to this someday and we have never met,
We love you.